Adding Brendan Sorsby gives Texas Tech an elite chance at the college football playoff again next season. But did Tech add all the pieces they need at every position? Let's discuss here on the Portal Podcast.
Locked On presents The Portal, the daily podcast covering college football recruiting and everything NIL. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
The Portal Podcast, where you get your daily recruiting, NIL, and transfer portal scoop. I'm your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. Thank you for making the Portal Podcast a part of your day each and every day right here on the nation's #1 podcasting network, Locked On. We're going to be discussing whether or not the Big 12 beyond Texas Tech can really compete at the top of the board year in and year out for several teams, not just like one extra team every other year. Maybe it's BYU, maybe it's ASU, whatever it may be. Can Texas Tech stay up there and then have some other people join them? That's really what it's about. Later on in the show, we're going to dive into that. We're also going to talk about portal balance. Texas Tech, for the most part, did it this past season. And for the most part, they did it again this year. But linemen, something I talked about on yesterday's show and something I've talked about 100 different times. We're going to describe basically with Texas Tech why it's so important and how they got to the playoff. And then to start the show, this is the most important thing. If you take nothing else away, if you saw Texas Tech play against Oregon, you know that they were a day late and a dollar short offensively. Well, getting Brendan Sorsby will certainly change things because he's not only a passer, he's not only experienced, he's not only a guy that led Cincinnati, a somewhat talented team last year, to a pretty good season and like borderline chance to get to the Big 12 championship game. He improved with his legs. He's not just a passer. So to that, let me share my screen here for those of you that are watching this live. And this is something that's fun for me because not everybody will really understand what it's like to be in a situation like him. Come on, put on the right one would help. There we go. Sorsby stats last year: 205 at 336, 61%, 2,783 yards, 26 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. So 5.2 TDs to every pick. That's pretty good at the Power 4 level. But again, the thing that I note that is more important than anything else about what he's doing, 101 rushes for 596 yards and 9 TDs. Raise your hand if you had that on your bingo card, because I didn't. I didn't know he could run like that and make those kinds of plays. And he's a pretty big guy. He's 230, give or take, maybe slightly over that. And he's a guy that if you have to get a yard, kind of Riley Leonard style, Tebow style, whatever, he'll go get you a yard. But he can make people miss, and he can get around the edge and beat you with RPOs, quarterback draws, quarterback sweeps. So you're getting an efficient quarterback in multiple ways. So Tech certainly gets that going for him. Here are his ratings per Pro Football Focus. 86.9 passer rating. That's outstanding. And as a runner, PFF has him 76.9. So what do we expect out of Sorsby? Well, a couple of things. Number one, the leadership factor, the experience factor, the hunger to play for a team that is big time. He's coming back to his native state of Texas. He has a lot going for him. And also, here's something else. I don't know how many people are aware of what Texas Tech really has coming in to help them out, but it's pretty impressive at wide receiver, and it's pretty darn impressive at tight end as well. They got 5 total players, 4 receivers, and 1 tight end. Kenny Johnson. This is a guy that is from Pittsburgh. This past season, a 6'1", 205-pound receiver, 48 catches, 695 yards, 14.5 per catch, 5 TDs. And on plays where the ball went 20 or more yards, 5 catches, 131 yards, 26.2 and 2 scores. Dante Lee, a 6'3", 185-pound guy out of Liberty, 32 catches, 589 yards, 18.4 and 5 scores. Passes of 20 or more, 7 catches for 257, 36.7 yards per catch, 4 scores. Malcolm Simmons, Auburn, 25 catches, 457 yards, 18.3, 2 scores. Plays that were thrown over 20 yards in the air before it touched anybody, 4 catches, 211 yards, 52.8 yards per, and 2 scores. Finally, a guy some people may not know about, Jalen Jones, 5'9", 170 pounds, out of Alabama State. Pretty darn impressive. 51 catches, 1,167 yards, 22.9 and 9 scores this past year for Alabama State. So 4 receivers that have explosive ability. I think from watching locally, they didn't get all big guys. They got a couple guys like Jones that are fast. They wanted to see what everybody did this year, but look at Oregon, the team they played, screens and stuff, short passes, get the ball out in space. But so did Texas A&M. I think A&M, like Jones, is one of the guys that you would compare to a couple of the different players that are at A&M and some of the guys coming up too. So they've got a combination. They got Dante Lee at 6'3", Kenny Johnson 6'1", Malcolm Simmons is about 6 foot. All those guys can really run. Then you got Jalen Jones, who's a burner, averaged 22.9 yards per catch. And to add to it, Brendan Sorsby was going to be throwing to Jet Carpenter, a tight end out of Nevada, 6'3", 258. He had 35 catches, 374 yards, 10.7 yards per catch, and 2 touchdowns. So Texas Tech, yeah, they got bombed in the college football playoff. That's not a secret. Oregon outlasted them, and they just didn't respect them up front in terms of their ability to pass, or to stop the pass rush. They didn't respect them in the run game, and they especially didn't respect them out wide. They just did what they wanted. They wanted to go blitz. They wanted to drop 8, whatever they wanted to do, they did it. Well, now with these pass catchers, including the tight end, you got to be really careful. You've got to have a very diverse game plan and not just be throwing out there whatever you want. You're going to have to be totally different. Sorsby's going to give Texas Tech a chance with those weapons to compete with anybody on a given day. I'm not saying Tech will be the best team in the nation next year. There's still a lot of stuff to figure out with the portal with other teams, but are they going to be able to beat an Ohio State or a Texas or a Notre Dame or an Oklahoma or a Miami or something in the playoff next year? I don't know, but they're in a heck of a lot better position skill-wise on offense, and that's the starting point. When we come back, I want to talk about the offensive line, and despite Texas Tech's money, that might be one concern, but on the other side of the ball, defensive line. Oh, no. Defensive line will not be a problem. Texas Tech will be in a great spot. And to be honest with you, I don't think many people will be disappointed with what they're bringing in. Not as many big names per se with the defensive line, but they have plenty of talent. So let's check it out right after the break right here on the Portal Podcast. Today's show is brought to you by TurboTax. Tax season doesn't have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. TurboTax Full Service. You can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert from start to finish without the stress of you going through all the guesswork. Did I get everything? Did I file all the deductions that I need? Did I miss anything or have to worry about a call from the IRS later? So it's going to be a little bit easier with them, and you can go about your day, do what you have to do, and not have to worry about the stress of filing your taxes. For a limited time, you can even have TurboTax take care of you with an local expert for just $150 all in. If you did not have a TurboTax expert last year, just file by the 28th of February. Take your taxes off your plate. Get back to your life. Whatever you do each and every day, visit TurboTax.com/local to book your appointment with TurboTax today. If you want to take your game to the next level, check out the Everydayer Club. All you have to do is check out the description down below. It's a pretty fun deal because we've got a Discord. We've also got the opportunity for you to check out everything that's going on around the network, not just Locked On Seminoles that I run or Locked On the Portal. We have a national board of Discord. You can talk about anything. And the best part about it, in my opinion, you get your ads for free for your audio. Any platform you use, Podbean, Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, doesn't matter. Wherever you get your pods for free on the go, $5 a month or $50 for the year. Check out the Everydayer Club in the description down below. All right, now let's talk about offensive linemen. This is something that you've probably heard me discuss many, many times. You're not going to have many people argue with this, that follow it, but linemen just don't get in the portal that much. They really don't. Texas Tech has, as I do this podcast on a Thursday here in late January, they don't have a whole bunch of offensive linemen. They got one from what I saw. Now, maybe they added somebody and I missed it, but I've got one for them. That could be a concern because, again, Oregon, gobbled them up. Now, part of that, they didn't respect him outside. They could dive to the box. Wholeheartedly, I would agree with anybody that says that. But they couldn't push him off the ball. Did they get enough? Could they get enough? Again, this is why I constantly bring up the same notion that I'm about to right now. If you do not recruit offensive linemen years and years and years in a row at a high level, it mitigates your chances to be dominant at the end of the year in bowl season or playoff season. Linemen don't transfer that much, especially offensive linemen, and it's really wild. They've got one kid, Jordan Church. Kid came over from Louisville, but last year, 49.8 in pass pro. He did have 514 snaps, but he's an interior lineman. Did Tech do enough? Do they have enough coming back to make a run at a title next year? I don't know. Sorsby and those receivers, again, Jalen Jones, Malcolm Simmons, Dante Lee, Kenny John, all those guys are good. Plus, you got Jet Carpenter. That's a great haul. And Brendan Sorsby's a great prospect. Can you move people off the ball? I'm not sure this is Tech's fault. It's just the nature of college football. Offensive linemen, several guys that could go somewhere else, make more, maybe even start. They just like being where they are. Linemen have a different mindset. That is my one major concern with them. But as for the defensive line, they've got 8 guys. 8. I'm going to mention one guy at tackle, one guy at end that I think are both great. Mateen Ibaragba, 26 pressures and 3 sacks. He played last year at Wake Forest. I think he's a grad student now. That's a really good player. Guys over 280 that can get to the quarterback and create problems, they never go out of style. But the other one's defensive end, Adam Trick. He's around 250 pounds. If these numbers are even remotely correct, it's scary. He played at Miami of Ohio, which is not a program in the P4. I understand that, but that's a really good program. 67 pressures and 8 sacks. That's a lot. 67 by one dude? Good night. And to that end, they're losing their defensive ends. So maybe Romello Hyde, et cetera, those guys are gone. Now you're going to be talking about an opportunity for him to come in and be that guy. And they got 8 total defensive linemen. That's pretty impressive. Could Texas Tech have a similar defense this next year? Possibly. I don't know if they're going to be quite as good. The linebacker group last year made it even more special than people want to give it credit for. And they had some pretty good luck with injuries by and large. But getting 8 guys to come in on your D-line, that's going to help a lot. Linebacker, they got a couple guys. And then a corner, this is interesting. They got Davin Martin. This is a kid that played at, I believe, UTSA. Big corner. 6'2", 280 pounds, but he's the only DB that they have as I do this recording. He was actually better in 2024. His PFF grades went down this past season. I suspect he was banged up. His grades were totally different. But anytime you get an experienced corner that's 6'2", 180 pounds, that's something you can look at and say, we have a chance at development. So I don't think that's a big problem. Next, if you go through this list and kind of look at what I've done here, they didn't get a running back. They've got some talent there, and they could still pick one up. They're not getting enough linemen yet on offense. I'm sure they like to get another offensive lineman, preferably a tackle, but where's that going to come from? And then finally, would you like to add a safety or another DB? Possibly. But is it necessary? Not necessarily the case. They're in a pretty good spot. This is one of the more well-balanced groups, and they hit their needs. I would give it an A- because they need another offensive lineman, especially attack. You could maybe B+. Like if you get the offensive tackle, like if they'd have gotten Jordan Seaton, obviously, that's a different kind of deal. But to that end, there just aren't very many people in the portal that are going to help them at this point. They are kind of who they are, barring something unforeseen, and that's okay. That's okay. Tech has enough talent coming back, combined with the pass catchers, this defensive line group, Sorsby, the tight end. They should be a top 10 team. I said on yesterday's podcast, I probably would end up, after I looked at them, thinking that this is a top 10 team preseason for 26. I would say so now. The 8 D linemen in particular gives me hope for them because that's enough. Like you're throwing mud at a wall to a certain degree because you don't know how it's going to go in spring or summer workouts or anything else or even fall camp. But if you got 8, at least a couple are going to hit. I mean, They do a great job of scouting. They've already proved that. So let's see what happens for Texas Tech, because I honestly think this is going to be one of those programs that if it hits this next year, they could kind of be there for the long term. Now, let me check the chat. I got a couple of questions here. What do we got going on? Hey, Salty, what's going on? Happy Thursday, Portal Podcast Nation. That's from Salty. Katie, Sorsby's running ability is another reason he was number one on Miami's quarterback wish list. Could you imagine if Carson Beck would have been a better runner? Like he wasn't a statue, but he wasn't very good. So that's a great point by Katie. Salty, does Tech have to pay a premium to get guys to go to Lubbock? To a certain degree, they probably do, but they got a billionaire that is supporting the program, so it doesn't matter. For those of you that are unaware, Texas Tech, as far as location, is Lubbock, Texas. It is up in the Panhandle. It's like 4.5 hours, give or take, to Dallas. Like, it's a long way from anything. It's just an outpost. It's an oil area. There's a lot of money there, but it's very blue collar, just outside of the town and all that. The town itself I've never been to, but I've heard it's pretty basic. And again, you're isolated. Do you have to pay a premium? Maybe, but it's still a college town. It's still a city, and there is some money there. So it's not like it's an outpost in terms of nothing to do. It's just an outpost in terms of location. Like, literally, there's just nothing close to it. As for Salty and everybody, I appreciate you stopping in. Katie, without those offensive linemen, Sorsby's running ability will come in handy. That is true. When they get in close games and they play teams, BYU next year or anybody that play, like, their schedule, I don't know it off the top of my head, but I'm guessing that Texas Tech does not play a very good schedule out of conference. If they do, somebody throw it in the chat. But my guess is they'll be 10-2 or better, because the schedule in the Big 12, Big 12 is not that great. It's just not. So that's actually a great time to transition to the following. Whether you're listening to this live or later on, is the Big 12 in a position where beyond BYU and Tech and Arizona State, I think those three, they're really trying. They're really trying. I don't know what's going on Baylor. That one's the most perplexing. Iowa State was just gutted. Kansas State, part of their roster is gone. That's rough. We'll see. Obviously, they still got a good quarterback, but running back's gone, etc. How in the world should we rank the league moving forward? Tech, to me, is way above everybody else because of the money they have for the portal, and to some degree now high school recruiting. They're starting that. Is anybody else really going to be a consistent playoff contender, or is it every single year going to be Tech? Because they get so many more linemen than everybody. I kind of think it's going to be the latter. That's not good for college football. That's unfortunate for college football. And in a lot of ways, it's embarrassing for the Big 12, in my opinion, because, like, watching they were really good on defense, but teams couldn't even move the ball at all against them up front, period. They were terrible. That league has to get better at offensive line and defensive line out of the high school ranks. This Tech's Tech too, especially offensive line. It's one thing to run through that league, but how would a lot of these teams do in the Big Ten or the SEC? I don't think very well. I want to see how they recruit offensive and defensive linemen over the next couple of years, or else this is just going to be a one automatic Texas Tech bid league. Even Arizona State and BYU, they've got a ways to go. Like, their D-lines don't have near the talent. This is the biggest monopoly right now in college football, and that's Texas Tech, in my opinion. If you don't agree, comment down below, but I'm pretty steadfast with that. Well, let's see. Justin, even the teams at the top of the Big 12, I don't view as national title contenders. Tech is the closest, but relying on the portal doesn't tend to lead to sustained success. 100%. I absolutely agree. That's from Justin Indy Sniper. Look, portal guys, and when things go wrong, are more likely to bail, if you know what I mean. Tech had it going last year, and it didn't matter. They had some pretty good leadership. And I think having Sorsby will help them this next year. But how many years are you going to be able to get a Sorsby? Remember, he's going back home. They took his girlfriend as a transfer. She's a volleyball player, if I remember. Like, it was perfect scenario. You've got to be able to recruit every single year at the high school level for 3 to 4 years, not just they just did it for one, in the trenches out of the high school ranks to kind of get out of that portal cycle. So it's going to be interesting the next couple of years for Texas Tech and everybody else in the Big 12. If they don't start doing some things to make it a little bit better in regards to what's going on with not just like a few of the things that are happening, but like a whole bunch of them on the trenches, like they just get their heads kicked in when they play upper echelon competition. If they don't improve that, they're never going to win a title unless maybe it's Tech. That league also hurts Texas Tech because you don't get the reps in games against elite offensive lines. Not good, elite, meaning we definitively have first and second round draft picks on our roster that are juniors, seniors, fifth-year seniors. How many guys take Tech out of the equation or offensive linemen in that league that are going to be elite offensive line draft picks? You had a couple of kids probably from Utah. They're pretty darn good. That's the one team that's, man, they manage their offensive, defensive lines well, 3-star kids or otherwise. I trust that group. Of course, Kyle Whittingham's now at Michigan, and good luck to him in Ann Arbor. But does anybody else have more than one guy that's probably a high draft pick? That's the next step for the Big 12. What else we got here? The other element is coaching. I don't know much about Tech's coach, but I doubt he's as good as a coach like Cignetti. That's from Justin Indy Sniper as well. Look, Cignetti's one of one in terms of how he picks his staff, and he evaluates portal, and he evaluates high school / JUCO. With that being stated, I have no idea how to rank Texas Tech staff. I'm not saying that good, bad, or indifferent. It's just they're so much more talented than everybody else in the league this past year, and they kept them motivated and all that stuff. That's great, but we need to see what it looks like now that they're the hunted instead of the hunter. It's going to take us through this next season to find out really. When something goes wrong, a player gets suspended, a player gets kicked out, a player gets injured, or a combination. When the chips are down, how do they overcome when they are not the more talented team or they're in a difficult spot? Sorsby gets hurt, something like that. If they don't have that scenario, then it doesn't matter. They'll run through that league they'll go undefeated every year until this league changes, barring somebody not playing. Their coaching staff's good enough to do that. I already know that because I just watched it. You know, the only reason they lost any game, the quarterback got banged up. He wasn't great. Now I got a guy like Sorsby. If he plays in every game, they should not lose a regular season game next year. They shouldn't. He's going to be a Heisman candidate. That's going to be really interesting. Katie, some of this year's portal drama could lead some teams back to focusing on high school and being selective with the portal. There's some truth to that, but let me throw out one thing. Because of Indiana, it was just mentioned with Cignetti, if it's at all possible, more people are expecting immediate results. So coaches, USF to Auburn and Tulane to Florida, like these G6 coaches bringing some of their players, Alex Golish, like USF to Auburn, several guys, Iowa State to Penn State. Matt Campbell brought over 20, I believe, from the Cyclones. So in certain situations, that may be for tenured coaches, guys that have been there a while, 5, 6, 7 years. Notre Dame, for instance, they've got 8 portal guys. They've recruited well to the high school ranks. Texas or Ohio State, a little more, but it's the same kind of thing. They recruited at elite level. Georgia, they don't need a ton. You have to be able to get those linemen. That's usually the biggest thing. Even Tech, after this season, they just went and took 8 portal D linemen. They're doing better in high school, don't get me wrong, but that shows you how long it takes. It is a process, especially in the trenches. You need 21, 22, and 23-year-olds. That's the way you win. Indiana had some like 24-year-olds, allegedly, like guys that were 5th and 6th year players. That's certainly very, very helpful. Katie, UGA's portal strategy to me is ideal. Yeah, they supplement here and there. They just take a few elite kids, a couple of pieces, maybe a kicker, a long snapper, whatever it is each year. Just fit a few pieces here and there. That's good. Notre Dame, again, 8. That's ideal. Texas, Ohio State, Penn State, last year's group, along with Notre Dame in the Final Four, combined among those 4 teams, their portal hauls for that year were only 35 players, whereas Louisville takes roughly 30 a year. That's just a lot of moving parts. It really, really is. Katie, UF bringing in Buster Faulkner is huge. They've got a pretty good portal class, but one of the keys Katie just brought up, if you've got the right coordinator, it matters because you find the right guys. I wouldn't be surprised if Faulkner is not in Gainesville long because he'll be a head coach pretty quick. Raymond Horton, 4.5 hours, and $80,000 truck is not a bad trip, though. Yeah. He's talking about Texas Tech, the distance from there to Dallas, give or take, it's 4.5 hours. If you're getting an $80,000 truck or whatever it is, hey, I get it. Raymond, money makes it easier to live in a small town. Yeah, to be honest, I'd rather have a little bit more money and live in a place like that every day. The convenience factor, you don't have to worry about it. The money takes care of it, and it's safer. Justin Indy Sniper, how is the Mensa Miami debacle going to end? Sounds like Miami will probably get him. I have no idea. If Miami gets him, they're going to get sued through the ends of the earth, and so is Mensa. Duke's one of those programs that doesn't care. They don't have any other chance unless they get a kid like that. And it's an in-conference deal. The ACC is in a very bad spot. They can't win either way they go because this is in conference. So that's a problem. To that end, I'm not a lawyer. I'm kind of like everybody else here. Even if I was a lawyer, I don't have that contract in front of me. It depends on the judge. There could be a lot of backdoor stuff. I'm sure the ACC does not like this at all because they're going to lose every possible way. This is bad for college football. It's obvious Miami's trying to get him, but so are other teams. It just happens to be that they're also in the Atlantic Coast Conference. Raymond, yes, indeed. I expect the Mensa saga to be one we talk about for years to come. How that ends will be intriguing because I think Miami pushes the envelope more than anybody else with the going out and just try to get somebody off another roster. I think that's pretty well known too. Seems like it would be also bad for Duke to force a player to stay when he doesn't want to be there. Lose for them. It's the same thing with Damon Williams at Washington. How's that going to work? I mean, he's their best player and he's a quarterback, but he walked out the door on him after signing a contract. Like 4 days before or something like that. That's rough, man. I don't know how that's going to go, but I do know one thing. It's awkward for me to even talk about. So I can't even remotely imagine what it's like for a young man that is going to go back in the lock. Let's say Mensa goes back to Durham and plays for Duke next year. Is somebody going to want to fight him on the team or something? I doubt it. But how many guys are going to trust him in workouts? How many guys are going to trust him with his leadership? How would the coaches trust him? That's not a good situation at all. It really isn't. Katie, Mensa could be an identical to Damon. Duke's filing will follow the Washington blueprint. Again, different state, different situation. You can't make the kid stay there per se. I mean, he could go to Miami. But at the same time, is that something that, again, I'm not a lawyer. Can they force that not to happen? Can the ACC get involved? There's so many little subpoints to this. I don't even know where to begin. The NCAA probably hates this too. It's not good for them. Katie, the president was set with Williams. President set with what? Yeah, it is. That's one case that will probably get brought up. I don't know how much further that's going to go because I didn't really go to court. He bailed on the whole thing of leaving, going for LSU. It depends on the specific language. The Big Ten / Washington were pretty steady. What's the contract like for Mensa? I have no idea. But if it does happen where he goes to Miami and they aren't definitively punished, and I mean massively, it's really bad for college football. Because the next step is, well, we don't care. Our quarterback got this hypothetically here. Somebody in spring this year is going to lose their quarterback. It's going to happen. It's going to break his ankle just running around end. They're going to be screwed, whoever this team is. We need a quarterback now. There's no portal window. You see where I'm going with this? There has to be somebody that takes the hammer. If it's Miami or somebody, whoever it is, somebody's got to take the hammer, like definitive against like scholarships, the whole nine. or else it's just going to continually get worse. You can't just assume it's going to go away. You have to fix a problem. You have to punish people that go outside the lines. There's no shortcut. Duke got their TRO. What's TRO? I have no idea what you mean by that. I want Mensa at Miami so they don't have an excuse when my Irish beat them next season. Well, that's one way to look at it, but I don't want him there because of the precedent it sets. I'm not looking at it individually. I'm looking at it from a big box perspective, but I get it. Who knows what Miami will get? Yeah, I don't know what TRO means. I'm not a big acronym guy. Let's see. I'll end it there. Thank you to everybody for showing up again. This is a lot of fun. Texas Tech obviously has a really good transfer portal class, and they've changed the Big 12. They have. But can they take that next step, especially with only one offensive lineman coming in, not a whole lot of talent in regards to what's coming back on the offensive line, in my opinion? That is my question. Oh, okay. TRO, temporary restraining order. Thank you, Katie. But, yeah, it's really difficult to project anybody other than Tech winning that league this year. I really don't see how. So with that, thank you very much for checking out the Portal Podcast. We will see you again soon right here